And we are live. That is right. No case of the Mondays here. It is Orange and Blue today, presented by Champ Honda. It's Cecil, Lammey. It's Andrew Mason talking Denver Broncos football. And Mace, we have
no countdown today.
A lot to get to. I want to get right in it.
You didn't want to do the countdown because the first thing I had to say, it's Broncos related. What did you think of them going white over white over white?
Yeah, I like it. I like that. Yeah, so we have a ton to get to on the field and off the field for this Broncos team, but it's good to have you back from San Francisco.
Yeah,
from Santa Clara.
Yeah, it's funny. I thought about going into San Francisco on Saturday night after the game because, of course, it was a 5:30 start Pacific time, and I'm just like, it's just too much. It was just too much.
Yeah, so it's a trek over there.
Yeah, too long an Uber ride. I mean, I was looking at like a 62-minute Uber ride, and I'm like, I don't know if I can keep up 62 minutes of conversation. And if it's 62 minutes of silence with an Uber driver, it's just, kind of gets a little awkward.
Right? It is a little awkward at times. But I'll tell you what wasn't 62 minutes. Russell Wilson on the field. My God, he wasn't out there that long, Mace. Some people saying, why? I'm just like, he did what he was supposed to. That's why.
Well, yeah, but also I think we talked about this earlier. You always want to get a look at your backup quarterback with the starters at some point.
No question.
You didn't want Jarrett Stidham's first time out there. And almost certainly the Broncos will need Stidham to play some meaningful repetitions at some point in the season. It's the nature of football. You wanted to get him a look. And I don't know if Sean Payton would have made the decision as early if they hadn't had a successful drive, but they did. So there you go.
Yeah.
And it was a successful drive, but it was very Russ old school. It was Russell Wilson taking off, which I think is sort of the interesting thing here, because while he did very well to run to space away from contact, and that's what you want to see on the scrambles, every so often you're not going to be able to run into a vacant space.
Right. And is vintage Russ what you really want when he's not a young guy anymore? And for me, Mace, run the system. That's the most important thing when this, trust me, the conversations here off air between shows are like, Russ is running, and that's awesome. I'm like, that is if he's running the system. Don't bypass an open receiver because you didn't see him. And you just have this take off and run mentality.
Yeah, but at the same time, you like a quick decision, right? Like,
yes.
What was last year? One of the things that sunk the offense, the decisions were slow. The process was slow. Going through the progressions that Nathaniel Hackett's system demanded, that was a laborious process, a time-intensive process. As I often say, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. There was a lot of indecision that led to a decision of being stuck in the pocket and not being able to do anything else. This offense is getting Russ to the level of beyond structure earlier.
Yes. And beyond structure is where he can thrive, but make sure you're within that structure. And that's 1-2 run or 1-2 dump off. Boy, Javonte got some work. More on him in a little bit. But I liked seeing Russ make those quick decisions.
I like it. And it's necessary if he's going to succeed in this offense. It's not going to work otherwise. I mean, first of all, some of those decisions are going to be throwing those quick slants, and they're going to be there. But part of the Russell Wilson equation is being able to get a quick 15 yards with his legs when coverage dictates it. I mean, he got a touchdown last year against Kansas City on New Year's Day after Justin Allen took over the offense from, when Jerry Rosburg became the head coach, and it looked different. And the mandate from Rosburg was, let's have this look like the stuff that Russ has done very well. Lo and behold, Russell Wilson looked like a very good quarterback the last 2 games.
Yeah.
And he looked like a very good quarterback on Saturday too.
What's interesting is you don't have to redesign the wheel. Just do what works. And what works is running the ball, quick decisions. And if it's there, run, because now you're going to influence the defense. Now the defense is going to, because it's true 11-on-11 football with the rushing quarterback. And now you're going to allow those moon ball shots. I know people are making a big deal. Cortland Sutton didn't get it. Easy, baby. Easy.
Okay.
It'll be there.
I mean, there are going to be halves during the season where Cortland Sutton only has one target, right? I mean,
and this is going to be a run-heavy team.
It's okay.
Court's probably going to have 65, 70 catches this year.
Yeah.
They're not going to go nuts with him.
Small sample size.
Right.
You gotta account for that. Small sample size is going to lead to an overemphasis on some things and an underemphasis on others. It's only natural.
Right.
So, but the thing is, overreaction season is thriving on social media right now, reacting to Broncos preseason football.
That it is. I think our question on the thumbnail is the question everybody should be asking. And then what is the answer? Is this the Russell Wilson the Broncos wanted, Mace?
Why don't you answer that first?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the Russell Wilson they wanted. Playing within structure, running when it's there, using his legs as a weapon, making quick decisions with the football. That's the Russ they wanted. They got it. It's just a year late.
They just had to change offensive coaches and change systems to get there, which I think shows that last year, that Frankenstein's monster of an offense, of a scheme that they were trying to put together, was just a complete misfire on the part of Nathaniel Hackett. So
no.
I would actually say this, like, you look back on last year and you're like, okay, who was more responsible, Hackett or Wilson? And again, this is nothing personal, right? I mean, you know, this is not about Nathaniel Hackett, the person, but it's about Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive installer. It didn't work. And now we're seeing signs that it's going to work with Russell Wilson. The question now with Sean Payton, the question is, how well does it work? Does it work to get him to a league average level, which is better than he was last year? Look, he was a legit bottom 5, bottom 6 quarterback last year in the NFL by virtually every measurable metric. Okay. We're not going to BS you here. It was bad.
Yeah.
Can you get him back to a mid-tier? Certainly. Then the question becomes, given the financial ramifications contractually, is mid-tier enough to justify continuing going down that path? And again, that's why it's not, I can't sit here and say there's a line of demarcation in terms of numbers or even team record that will determine whether Russell Wilson is back or not. It's going to depend on the flow of the season. It's going to, like, if he starts fast and fades, that's negative. If he starts slowly but gets better as he becomes more comfortable, then that illuminates your thinking. It's
and
very
here's
much
what
in
could
the gray
happen.
area.
What do you do against your AFC West opponents? How do you look in this division? Do you beat Kansas City? However you can get there. Is that part of the record? That
would be wild if they could.
You could have him win 7 games and keep Russ. You could have him win 10 games and get rid of Russ. There's this, and people don't like hearing it, Mace, but you're just going to have to wait.
And it depends on the other phases too, because you could have that 10-win season where the defense is exquisite and the special teams takes a leap back to where it was when the Broncos won Super Bowl 50, when it was a legitimate top 10 special teams unit. So there's a path where you win 10 games and Russell Wilson is very much a passenger on the plane getting there. But there's also an outcome where you win 7 games, the defense lets down, special teams doesn't get all the way back. You're playing games from behind. Maybe you struggle to run the football and Russ has to carry it on his shoulders. You know, it's like something that is said of many things. When you see it, you're going to know.
Yeah.
When you see it, you'll know.
And that's the best way to put it. And fans don't want to have that patience. You want to know right now, and they must win this much.
And we have to predict it as if we're
right.
You know, we're not fortune tellers. We're not mind readers. That's, you know.
What was the old Johnny Carson skit? Or
Karnak the Magnificent?
Yes. What is Russell Wilson getting cut or whatever? Like, yeah, we'll just have to wait and see.
It would be something like, he'd say something like, the Phantom Menace and Russell Wilson. Then Ed McMahon would say, the Phantom Menace and Russell Wilson. Name 2 disappointments. Like last year. That's really, yeah.
The Amazing Mace snack.
Yeah. It doesn't have the same ring to it. I'm sorry.
No.
Totally dated reference as well. Yet another reference that becomes relevant to fewer and fewer people with each passing year.
Well, hey, if Sean Payton's referencing Gilligan, we can reference Johnny Carson.
Well, Johnny Carson was still on as late as 1992. So, so
take that, Sean Payton.
Yeah, I was in high school when he did his last show.
How about the school of Javonte that we got to see, Mace? I didn't think we'd see that much of him, and we did.
It was semi-intentional. Like, the first play, getting it to him in space when he dropped it, that was intentional. And then I think getting him the ball on the second play was also intentional. in other words, okay, you give a guy has a drop, you're going to rely on him. What's the best way to get that player going? Get him back on the horse.
Yep.
I like seeing that.
Yep.
But then you had that check down that wasn't part of the plan, but I thought he looked good. I'll say this. I do think getting all of the explosion back is going to take a little bit of time. Like, he's not, to my eyes, it doesn't look like it's all the way there just yet.
Right.
That's okay.
Well, and we've saw that in training camp as well. And I think that an 85% Javonte is still better than, 50% of the league. Javonte is pretty damn good when he's 100%. Mm-hmm. He may never be that. He may never be the Nick Chubb visions that I had, Mace. Mm-hmm. But an 85% Javonte, if you would agree he's around 85, that can be really good. And if you want explosion, well, we got a guy.
Yeah. The 85%, the question is, where does 85% of Javonte Williams stack up with 100% of Samaje Perine? Mm-hmm. And you can use the two of them playing. If you do go 50-50, you can keep each of them fresh. And then the other guy, if you want the explosiveness, Jaleel McLaughlin, who had both touchdowns on Saturday, has 3 of the Broncos' 4 touchdowns so far this preseason. But it's not just that he has the scores. Look at that little move near the sideline that he makes when he catches the pass from Ben DiNucci and gets the defenders just flailing. Mm-hmm. That play, that touchdown, that's all McLaughlin.
Yes.
There. That's not the blocking was there. That is, he stops on a dime, defenders whiz past him, and he finishes the job going into the end zone.
Mano, as we say.
The touchdown run, there's some good blocking, and the way it's designed, there's one free man. And it's okay, Jaleel, make him miss. And he made him miss.
And he can do that.
Yes.
These are things that we saw regularly at training camp and even back to rookie mini camp. Okay. He's special, everybody.
He's special, but
he's not going to start.
Yeah,
but he's special.
Nate's suggesting it. I know James.
Well, James Merrill wrote about
this
that.
Morning,
James was going to write that. Jaleel McLaughlin should start for the Broncos.
And I got asked about on the drive, and I'm like, let's just hold off. Let's just put that.
We're going to pump the brakes there a little bit.
Put the stallion back in the barn for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So. Well, you mentioned the Samaje Javonte thing. 100% Samaje is about what you get from 85. And I know he averaged 7.3 a carry, but historically, explosive plays do not happen with Samaje Perine. And I love him. I loved him in college. We had 8 touchdowns against Kansas. Sorry, BK, but
it was Kansas. They were terrible.
Right, exactly. And he had 300 yards on the ground. But either way, Samaje Perine, you're not going to get that. With Javonte, you saw the receiving ability, and you saw that it's good enough to have him out there. And I think he did better than both of us thought, because we both had him around less than 4 yards a carry, which I would have been fine with.
Well, Tony Jones had a good game too.
He did.
Tony Jones, some nice blocking, but he rips off that 43-yard run. That sequence, that sequence that led to McLaughlin's touchdown catch, where it goes 44-yard kickoff return by McLaughlin, 43-yard run by Tony Jones Jr., and then the 9-yard touchdown catch for McLaughlin from Ben DiNucci. That was terrific, but it's just interesting because you wonder how many running backs they're going to keep on the roster. Is it going to be 3 on the 53, or is it going to be 4?
It's going to be 3, and then you're going to keep a fullback, and then Nate Atkins is going to make this team.
So that means Tony Jones isn't making this team.
He's on the practice squad, though. Does. I think you could have a better chance of getting Tony Jones on the practice squad than you could Jaleel McLaughlin.
That's the decision they're probably going to have to make. The thing they're going to have to think about is who's more likely to pass through and end up on the practice squad. The other thing that it may be is if you've got some injuries like Jalen Virgil, if Jalen Virgil, it looks like he's going to opt for the procedure that would have him out 4 to 6 weeks rather than 4 to 6 months. Right. If that's the case, then then that may be the kind of move where Virgil's on the 53, goes to IR the next day,
right,
and then you bring a player back like a Tony Jones, perhaps,
right,
similar to what they did with Mike Purcell last year at the roster deadline. They cut him, re-signed him back to the roster the next day.
Yeah,
under the same terms. I could see that happening with Tony Jones.
There's some roster gymnastics that are coming up this week, and we got plenty to say about this week's worth of practices and the 2 joint practices with the Rams, but
with no Aaron Donald.
No Aaron Donald. Congrats.
Congrats to him.
Mm-hmm.
But
probably the most dominant player I've ever seen at the Senior Bowl. And I saw Von Miller at the Senior Bowl. You were there as well. Like when Aaron Donald was there in Mobile, not to knock us off track with Senior Bowl talk. Oh my God. Never seen someone dominate like that.
Here's the question I have for you. Good thing or bad thing that Aaron Donald isn't going to be out there for the Broncos O-line?
Bad thing.
Yeah, because I wanted to see how they adapt.
Yeah, get the work in against the absolute beast in the middle.
Even though they might have been schooled. Because they've been schooled by lesser defensive linemen so far.
And Tyler Lancaster's getting after you. And apologies to Tyler, he's a solid pro. But like, yeah, Aaron Donald will be different. And the great thing is, you can't sack Russ. So you can get through, you can get some work in.
Then you're like, yeah,
that would have been a sack, but I can't touch Russ. Like that. That's why it would be better if he was out there.
How many times have we seen this gesture in training camp? From Jonathan Cooper and Randy Gregory.
If we had a quarter for every time that happened.
Yeah, they're getting close, and you see them like, they put the stop sign on themselves.
Right. It's almost the sign for a sack. Like, yep, I got him. I got him. We know that this offensive line struggles. So yeah,
instead of waving your arm around, like you're trying to do an offside trap in soccer. Sometimes you just put your.
I was totally going to say that.
Yes, of course you were. Yes,
but I think
the baseball and soccer stuff. Yeah, for the most part,
I just agree with you. You could tell me any baseball opinion, I'd be like, yeah, righteous. Here we go. And I think.
What do you think of the pitch count, or pitch clock? Do you have no opinion on the pitch clock?
I think it's made games faster, right?
Hey, that actually made sense. It's true.
Okay, there you go.
But I've got a slight objection or two to it.
Okay,
that'll
be for.
I've told some people about my objection to
purple and gray today. What do we do if we do a Rocky show? Purple and
it'll
gray?
Be purple and black.
Purple and black today.
Yeah, where they wear black hats.
Okay.
Yeah, purple and black.
Okay. There you
Doesn't have the same ring as orange and blue.
No. Doesn't have the same as
or black and purple. I think you start with purple.
Start with purple.
Purple's more distinctive.
Okay.
Now, I mean, if there are some teams, their colors are complex. Like, what if the Arizona Diamondbacks went back to their original colors? You'd be talking about like purple, some teal, black, copper is in there as well. That so you'd be like purple and teal and black and copper today. PTCB today.
PCGY.
PTCB?
Yeah, TCBY or whatever. Country's best yogurt. Yeah, I think I got that right. Anyway,
yes.
Let's get it right on this offensive line. Russ getting rid of the ball, running the system as designed, because DMAC asked me on the drive, how do they fix it? Russ is going to have to fix it because they can only do so much. And I think Zach Strief is doing a great job. You and I have talked to most of the starters this training camp in one-on-one situations. Like everybody loves what Zach Strief is doing. He brings fun to the field. And as hell, everybody has told us, he's a former player. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. He sees what they see.
But
the results aren't there from anybody. Nobody. Nobody, buddy. Ben Powers struggling. Quinn Miners struggling. Tackles awful. Like it's a concern.
It's the biggest concern you have right now.
Yes, 1,000%.
In that regard, you are a little relieved not to face Aaron Donald, future Hall of Famer, this week, because even though he'd have to hold up, it could get ugly. But I also want to know where this group stands. Like right now, you head into week 1. What's the biggest concern? What is the one thing that could lose the Broncos that week 1 game against the Las Vegas Raiders? It's Max Crosby.
Max Crosby going Khalil Mack.
Yes. And that is not outside the realm of possibility.
Not at all.
That game.
And that'd be frustrating to have all this work done, to set up a game plan the way, Sean Payton's going to game plan in the right way. He's going to call the offense the right way. And that's why these close games, any sort of special teams errors like we saw against the 49ers, everything counts. I'm not saying they have to be perfect, Mace, but you have to be as flawless as possible because you don't have the offense to overcome that muffed kickoff or whatever happens with your offensive line or with your special teams.
Yeah, you're going to have to win games at the margins. And you're going to have to be precise. You're also going to have to avoid unnecessary penalties. I mean, there was literally a false start on everybody but the center. Something was off with the snap count in that. But it's preseason. If you're going to make those mistakes, you make them now when it doesn't count. The one thing we haven't talked about, the actual results of the game, which tells you how little it matters in the grand scheme of things.
Right. I mean, and that's the thing where I know Sean Payton said that it would feel better. You'd feel better if they won. And this late collapse just proves it's our last topic. Is like they just don't have any depth. Okay.
Well, and also this is where the other team's quarterback, Trey Lance of San Francisco,
it's a former first rounder.
Former high first rounder. He's a
Top
number three overall pick. And he's out there at the end. That's exactly what Trey Lance should do against that caliber of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Just bing, 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 marks the offense downfield. So, yeah, the depth as you get farther down the roster is a problem. I will say this. I do wonder if you're going to see the Broncos take that number 5 waiver claim position for a spin, because, of course, with that number 5 spot, that means only 4 teams have a higher priority on players who are waived when everybody cuts to 53 coming up here in 8 days. Would it surprise me at all if the Broncos bring in 2, 3, 4 players? Not at all.
No, not one bit.
Here's something that I could see happening too. Of course, back in the day, Sean Payton and John Fox were both on the New York Giants staff as coordinators. Payton on offense, Foxy on defense. There was a year in Carolina in 2009 when the back of the roster was as thin as a promise, and they didn't cut to 53. They cut to 51. They just said, all right, we know we're going to bring in some guys on waivers. Let's just pare it down and move on. I don't think the Broncos will do that, but I would not at all be surprised if they kind of go into this process saying, yeah, we're going to have some moves, some commensurate moves coming here.
Right.
And that they are active on the waiver wire. By the way, they have that number 5 priority on the waiver claim list for, I believe it's the first 3 weeks until then it becomes based on this year's record. So,
right.
Yeah.
You got some time
to
make some moves.
But take one of the rewards of a bad season last year for a spin.
I think you need to with this team. And if you're on the bubble and you make the team, don't
celebrate that.
Don't celebrate
Tuesday
that
night,
because they could easily, someone else gets cut. They cut you. They pick up that other person. It's a brutal game, y'all.
That is hard. Like,
it is.
You know, you think you've made it, and then the next day you get ziggied.
You didn't make it.
Yeah.
No.
That's hard. Do you remember 4 years ago, River Craycraft?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The thing that I think about with him is that when John Elway was talking about the cuts they'd made, Craycraft was the only punt returner on the roster, and Elway gets up there at his post-cut press conference and says they're looking on the waiver wire for another punt returner. And I'm thinking, that poor dude.
Right.
Like, he heard that. He has to know, like, well, I guess I didn't make it.
Right. I guess the truth comes out.
Yeah.
The truth about people's reactions, because Vance Joseph is getting a lot of hate, whatever. Everyone calm down. End of the bench, lack of depth.
Well, I think part of
Vance Joseph's concepts wrong.
Well, I think part of it is because people looked and saw the shot of Sean Payton appearing pretty agitated toward Vance Joseph.
Yes.
And so, you know, the camera doesn't catch everything. It catches like just snippets. It's like when the camera caught Melvin Gordon frustrated and talking to Jerry Jeudy last year, and everyone zeroed in and apparently being inattentive, and everyone zeroed in on that. And I'm like, yeah, I kept looking at the sideline the entire second half at that game in LA, and Gordon was involved in paying attention. Like, but the camera found the one moment, right?
Right.
The one moment where he's talking.
What fits your narrative?
Exactly.
And I think narrative about Russ needs to just be wait and see. And this is who he is, everybody. There's no like he sucks or he's the greatest ever. None of that is true. The narrative on Jerry Jeudy, the narrative on Vance Joseph, like as much as some may not want to hear this, you're going to have to wait. Give these guys some time. And I'm not concerned about Vance Joseph's concepts whatsoever. I am most concerned about their lack of depth.
Yes.
Because you don't stay healthy in an NFL season. It doesn't happen.
And you've already had that depth compromised.
Yes.
With Jonas Griffith tearing his ACL. I mean, I'm encouraged by some of the depth. I'm encouraged that you had another really good game from Elijah Garcia and Matt Henningsen. Like I feel good about the defensive line depth right now. But you start looking at, for example, K'Wan Williams has missed some time here.
Right.
Isang Bassi did have a pick. He was actually playing safety at that moment. That's actually an interesting thing in terms of roster construction. That's your backup nickel. Isang Bassi is working as a backup safety because of the injuries. And what that might allow you to do is go heavy at another spot.
Right.
But if K1 is hurt, then you have Bassey. But if something happens to Bassey, then what? It's yeah.
Well, the secondaries where they have a bunch of talent, and it was like some of those guys aren't going to make it.
The dominoes start falling pretty quickly when you start accounting for injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of the domino effect is when a guy moves to a more prominent role on offense or defense, they lose on special teams. And then Mike Westhoff and Ben Katwika are left scrambling as well to figure things out.
Yeah. RJ brings up something important about culture. Would a win in the preseason change the culture?
Ask the 2008 Detroit Lions, who went 4-0 in the preseason and then went 0-16.
Ask the LA Rams, who didn't win a preseason game and then won the Super Bowl.
Ask the Broncos of 2017. Vance Joseph's first year as head coach. 4-0 preseason. Yay, hooray, go Denver. And they go 5-11.
Yes, and it was a 2-0 start. Is that right?
So they basically came out
6-0.
Won 6.
Vance Joseph, he can't lose.
And then they lost 11 of the next 14.
It was rough,
including 8 in a row. That was really rough. That was a rough 2 months.
Yes, yeah. There were reasons why Mike Shanahan was being flirted with to be their head coach.
Yeah,
and then that was denied.
It was bad.
Watch our what if on that.
Yeah, there were some great trips that year. I mean, I enjoyed the Miami trip, for example, right up until the time the game started.
Jason Peters says he wants to continue playing. I tweeted about it. I wrote about it in Mile High Monday, denversports.com. And I said, this is just something that if you want to win, if you want to push for the playoffs, you take Jason Peters away from any other team. Now, the last time he played left tackle, starting for the Bears, 2021, he was the number 22 PFF, whatever, ranked offensive tackle in the league. Last year for Dallas in one start, and I believe 7 games, Mace, you can check on that. He played left guard. So is he an answer for you at tackle? Is he an answer for you at guard? All I know is having that guy in the locker room would be good and help out your offensive line in any capacity that you would need him, because this offensive line needs help. So I am promoting the idea of, take a spin with Jason Peters.
Well, let me ask you this. If they choose to save $11.8 million by moving on from Garrett Bowles, as we've talked about, like the cap implications, if they move on from Bowles. On the Friday show, we discussed that. Part of that probably goes to Jason Peters.
Yeah.
Or somebody of that ilk.
Yeah. If Jason Peters and Mike McGlinchey were your tackles, that's as good as Garrett Bowles, and it's less.
Yeah. This is year 20 for Jason Peters?
It would be, yes. Undrafted 2004, Arkansas as a tight end.
20 years.
Yeah.
How do you play that long, man?
I don't know.
As a quarterback, it's one thing.
Right.
A kicker, it's a fair amount of guys.
There's some freaks out there. Trent Williams.
But playing an offensive line for 20 years.
Right.
Dude, man.
You're doing something right.
Yeah.
But Jason Peters is out there. There are other answers. And I think if you're the Broncos, you need to work the waiver wire, like you said. You need to scout everybody's practice squad. And you need to consider veterans like Jason Peters. And right now we're seeing some running backs get snapped up across the league. So now there are some of these moves that other teams are doing. Broncos don't need to do running back necessarily, but
they found their guy in McLaughlin, I think, as far as the guy who can supplement.
And if you lose Tony Jones, someone steals him away, you got Dwayne Washington.
Yeah.
Who is different than Jones, but he's fine, baby.
They're they're both special teamers, and that's the other thing.
Right.
For McLaughlin, if he wants to just cement his spot on the 53, it's becoming indispensable on special teams as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see. He doesn't really factor as a returner. I mean, he's returned depth, although he did have that muff on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
But what can his other roles be on special teams? If they can be extensive, then absolutely there's going to be room for him to be on the 53 and get a jersey on game days.
Right. Speaking of jerseys.
A jersey with a nameplate that has the correct spelling of his surname.
We would hope so. And if you want a deep cut, if you want a fan to make a custom jersey, make the one with the misspelled name. If Jaleel McLaughlin blows up and becomes like a Pro Bowl back someday, if you wore that, if you had a custom-made jersey with the G with McLaughlin, that would be a deep pull. If I saw that dude, I'd be like, dude, that's...
You have to think if he makes the team, he's changing numbers too, right?
Yes. Yeah. 38 isn't exactly a speed back number.
He strikes me as a single-digit guy. depending on what could be available.
Okay.
But he strikes me as a single-digit number guy.
Okay. What number would you go with?
Well,
I'd go 1. Because he's number 1 in all of college football. He's the one.
And nobody's got number 1 right now, right?
I don't believe so. No, 0's taken, 2's taken off, obviously.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty kick-ass. Number 1. I love the fact that more guys are wearing single digits now, by the way. Single digits just look cool.
Well, I said on the postgame show, I'm not going to tell you to spend your money, but if you want a Jonathan Cooper jersey, do it. Agent 0. 0 in the field, number 1 on your hearts. That's right. The jersey thing, the
uniforms.
Yeah.
Oh, because they went with the all white sock look, basically.
Yeah.
So it usually they'd have blue on the top of the socks. This game was all white. I kind of liked it, actually. It looked pretty sharp.
No, I like it. Something new, something different. You know what I missed though? This is totally unpopular opinion.
The D on the helmet. No, that's not an unpopular opinion. Right, that's a popular opinion.
The unpopular opinion is I miss the orange pants. You'll know the years that they wore them because it wasn't very long. But when they had the old school blue helmets, the white tops, and orange pants.
Wasn't it 70 and 71 and 78 and 79, I believe?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. Because in 71, it came up today because the Broncos are wearing white jerseys for one game at home this year, first time in 20 years. They wore white jerseys with orange pants for the entire home schedule in 1971. I always thought it was sharp, but like I would expect whatever they do uniform wise will allow for flexibility among blue, orange, and white. Like I think there will be an orange pant that's part of the next ensemble.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would apply.
I don't know if it's going to be navy blue or light or the lighter academy blue, but I expect whatever they come up with will have some flexibility and mix and match so that you can do white jerseys over blue pants and not have the mismatched side swoosh stripes.
Please stop that.
That was awful.
That was terrible. Speaking of being able to maneuver, and I kind of like this, Mace. We actually didn't talk about this off air, so maybe we should have. But as we go over our daily allotment of 30 minutes, we just kind of light and sweet, baby. We feel it out.
Yeah.
I know we have a ton to say, and this week we have a ton to prepare for. I'm on assignment tomorrow, so I'll be off. James Marilat sitting in. Is there anything else you'd want to bring up in our show atmosphere here?
I want to bring up. Now I'm good.
We're good?
Yeah.
Did we hit it? Did we play the hits? I
think we played the hits. I mean, I want to get the brief stuff on the defensive line in. I do think we have to probably talk about one thing, though. I know you don't like talking about special teams and kickers, but Peter King dropped the nugget in his column this morning that the Saints having a kicker competition, that they could move on from Will Lutz. And if that's the case, the Broncos
guess who's going to be in Denver?
The Broncos could be trading for him.
Yeah.
Or otherwise acquiring him.
It could be one of those, we're going to cut him, but just give us something for him. That type of deal.
Conditional 7th round.
It might even be the ones where we see him, they are cut, and then it's like, no, he wasn't cut. He was actually traded.
Yeah.
We've seen that before.
That I think if the Saints decide not to bring him back, that seems pretty obvious a move for the Broncos to make and for Sean Payton to make.
And I think that is be a quality move.
Yeah. All respect to Brett Maher. I mean, Maher was a fill-in for Lutz a couple of years ago, stabilized things, but for a head coach, you don't want to have to think about the kicker.
No.
You send him out there. He's good from a distance, does the job. And I think he would like to get back to that point where he's not thinking about the ins and outs of the kicking game.
Well, and what's great about this, the Walton Penner ownership group, Mace, you don't have to really think about money anymore. You have to work within the constraints of a salary cap, but there's always money, baby. So for me,
cash, it's fine. Cash
I
is king.
want every decision this team makes to be for the benefit of the Broncos winning in 2023 and figuring it out with Russ or not. What I do not want is, well, we can't afford it, or, well, we got this, or like all the mistakes of the past. I want those to be gone. I believe with Sean Payton, they will be, because Payton back to our look at Vance Joseph. He wants to win. I don't care if it's preseason, game of badminton. Sean Payton wants to win.
Badminton, I think he's probably more of a pickleball guy.
Is he a pickleball guy?
I don't know.
Everybody's pickleball now.
Pickleball.
Talk about pickleball.
It's fun. Have you ever played it? It's a blast. I'll
take your word for it.
I mean, I played tennis, and so it's kind of it's certainly in the same vein, but with it being a wiffle ball, the ball kind of lingers up in the air a little slowly. You just whack it.
Did you have to let it linger?
Oh my gosh.
We will go cranberries on this show.
Yes.
That's right. So either way, Sean Payton, Team Jordan, wants to win. He's got that fierce competitive spirit.
I have a friend who insists that Dolores O'Riordan always sung off key.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion. I'm like, I never noticed that.
I'll have to go notice it myself.
All right.
First, we'll tie a bow on today's program. Mace, it's a joy talking about this team.
Likewise.
And jumping in this week, big week. I'll be back on Wednesday after our first day of joint practices. We got Wednesday, Thursday, and a media barbecue.
What? I know.
What?
I saw that on the media schedule.
At the end of it.
Instead of at the start, the media barbecue is at the end of it. I wonder if there was a little tinge of guilt.
A little arm twisting behind the
internally,
scenes.
Okay,
hey,
this was
you guys
actually
have been good to it. Maybe Sean Payton's learning we're not all bad guys.
And
we're not your enemy.
And also it was a really nice event.
Yeah.
You're starting the marathon of covering a season. We're seeing each other every day.
Right.
And yeah, there'll be consternations and things will drive you crazy, but it was a very collegial atmosphere.
You know what you can do at the media barbecue?
Have chicken. Oh, a shared.
You can share
moment.
A moment like we do with you every single day. It's orange and blue today.
You know.
And that's all we got to say. I will not wear that t-shirt that I
now that was a shared moment.
He's Andrew Mason. He's at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey. OBT is a BFD. We are presented by Sean Ponda, everyone. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?